What I'm going to do is talk to you guys about what's coming. Right now, we've got one FPSO offshore Guyana producing 120,000 barrels a day. We've got another one that just came in that's slated to produce 220,000 barrels a day. Prior to the newest FPSO showing up in Guyana, the largest FPSO, which is a floating production, storage, and offloading vessel, the largest in the world, was installed in Nigeria by Total, and it's called the Agena FPSO. Agena produces 220,000 barrels. It's the largest FPSO in the world today. It set the record in 2019 when it went online production. We've got slated somewhere between 8 and 15 of the world's largest FPSOs scheduled to be installed between Guyana and Suriname. So what I'm going to do is talk to you just a little bit about the 15-year horizon. And I've got to move this out of my way. Here we go. So what I have here is a low case, a probable case, and a stretch case. And the first column is the number of FPSOs. So if for some reason no new discoveries occurred starting today, and really I developed this a few months ago, so it's really starting a few months ago. But the chances of this low case is pretty low. I don't think this is going to happen. I think we're going to be much closer to the probable case. But just say we don't find another single discovery from here out. The number of FPSOs in the basin will be 10. Every single FPSO. So let me just explain a little bit of background on FPSOs. So the average FPSOs in the world today run about 100 to 120,000 barrels a day. That's pretty much the average. There's some 60,000, 80,000. There's a few 140, 150. The average is about 120,000. Typically, you need 350 million barrels to make it economic for a 100,000 barrel a day FPSO. So why are we doing 220,000 barrel a day? Because the fields that they're finding here in Guyana and Suriname are ranging above 500 million barrels each. So there's been 22 discoveries in Guyana in the Starbuck field, and ExxonMobil is admitting to 10 billion barrels of oil. So if you do the math, and I'll tell you right now, as a former ExxonMobil employee, Exxon is very, very conservative. So if they tell you 10 billion, the truth is probably higher than 12 billion. But if you just do the math, that means that we're averaging 500 million barrels per discovery. So some discoveries are more and some are less. So what happens is to put 220,000 barrel FPSOs on a 500 million barrel discovery, by year 8, your production levels will start coming down considerably. So you're going to need to do a tieback. And a tieback is just another field. It could be a smaller field. It could be just another field that's close enough to put a production system in place and to run pipelines back to the existing FPSO to make up the difference as the production rates start to decline on year 8 and 10 on a typical field. So typical FPSO, 25 years is your lifetime. You build your fields for 25 years, and that's what you want to try and get out of your field and your FPSOs is 25 years. That's what your economics are built off of. So every one of these major FPSOs is going to need a tieback. So an FPSO, a standard, fairly round number for every investment per FPSO is $10 billion US. and every tieback is going to be somewhere around $1.5 to $2 billion. So you can see there, you've got $100 billion worth of investments in FPSOs on the low end, and we probably got another 15 billion plus investments for the tiebacks. This doesn't include operating cost. This doesn't include, you know, your maintenance and all those other things. That's completely separate. And then on top of that, I've got number of gas to shore lines. I've got one gas to shore line for ExxonMobil in Guyana, and I've got a gas to shore line for Staatsolie in Suriname. A typical gas to shore line is going to be more than a $500 million investment for that. So you can see on the low case, we've got $120 billion worth of investments, roughly. And some percentage of that will be direct foreign investments in the local market. Our probable case, which what I did was I looked at the historical success rate. So a typical success rate in the Gulf of Mexico or Brazil or any of the other deep water basins, if you can get 35% success rate on your drilling program, you're doing very, very good. That's the goal, is to find oil 35% of the time. That means you're doing very, very well. ExxonMobil in Starbuck has been close to 80% right now. So what I did was I said, okay, let's just say they're not going to be as successful because they found all the big fields, and they're going to get 50% success rate as opposed to 85%. Hold on a second. Somebody's knocking at the door. I'm sorry, I'm on a call. Thank you. Sorry about that, guys. It's the cleaning crew trying to clean my room. So if we just looked at where we are today and said that our success rate goes down from 80% down to 50%, our probable case for number of FPSOs would be about 15, and every one of those would require a tieback. And we would still have 2 gas to shore pipelines. And then I have this last column out here is FLNGs, which is floating liquefied natural gas. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think, and what we think in the industry is that there's going to be a gas play starting in about 5 years. We think we'll see some development start to be announced on the gas. So if you look at Guyana and Suriname, right now, everybody's exploiting the oil because it gets you to market fastest, it gets you the highest returns and the quickest returns. So Exxon has claimed discovery to production in 5 years. Typical discovery to production in other markets range from 10 to 20 years. And they're doing it in half the time. They're doing that with oil. Gas takes a lot longer. And right now, gas is really just a nuisance for the operators because they're having to build major compression capabilities on their FPSOs to deal with the gas because they re-inject it. But there's going to be a point in about 8 to 10 years that you get gas breakthrough, and you can't, your compression capabilities are going to run out on your FPSO, and you're going to have to do something with the gas. And the best way to handle that is to export the gas. So our prediction is in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see several FLNG programs come to fruition. We will see then a gas gathering system put together, and the FLNGs they'll be very similar to a FPSO, except that they're there to compress the gas into an LNG, into a cryogenic state. And so that's the probable case. And I think that's what we can all kind of bank our plans and predictions off of, is that probable case. And then I have a stretch case. The stretch case includes finding gas and oil in several other basins, like in other blocks, like the Canje, the Quarantine, Block 42, which is Shell's, and Block 50 or 42, I think is Petronas, and 53 is Shell in Suriname. And so if we have those come in, like there's a good chance that we will find oil there. Those, I don't see those being developed for another 5 years because we're just in the early stage of discovery in those fields right now. There's a stretch of 20 FPSOs and 22 tiebacks and 3 gas to shore lines, and a number of FLNGs will then go up. So what you can see is the current operators are ExxonMobil, the last chart on the bottom here, low base case. Probable case, Petronas found a major discovery. Chevron is now, since I've done this chart, Chevron's now bought into a shallow water in Suriname. And the word's coming back that CGX found oil. So I think we can put Chevron or CGX up in the probable case, and we can put Chevron in its place down here in the stretch for now. So let's go look at the predictions. Can you guys see this chart with the bar chart? So this is just a graphical depiction of when the FPSOs and the tiebacks are expected. So what you've got here is you've got the first 10 FPSOs, Liza 1, Liza 2, Payara, Yellowtail, and you've got the first gas to power or gas to energy project, which is the one in yellow there. Then you go down, I've called it East Liza. I've got Hammerhead in there. I think we're going to see Redtail actually go in ahead of Hammerhead. I think Redtail is going to end up being number 5, and so forth. So what Exxon's plan is to issue the contracts and start projects on a new FPSO every single year, starting next year, and moving on every year from there on out. I've put in, I don't think they're gonna be able to do it every single year. So I've put one in what takes 2 years to get the project started. And then what you see is the green lines, which is all the tiebacks. And those are major projects. Those are $2 billion projects that have all the equipment, all the pipelines, and all the installation requirements that go offshore, just like a normal FPSO. It's just without the FPSO. And then you see down here in the red, that's the Total Block 58. Right now, I would say the probable case is 2 FPSOs for Total, and the stretch case is 3. You've got a gas line down here for Staatsolie. Staatsolie's made it very clear that they intend to bring on a major gas export line onshore to change their economy. And then you got 2 tiebacks, and you've got a Petronas FPSO down there. We still have to wait. Petronas is going back, starting the drilling program here in 22, fourth quarter 22. So I don't think we'll see anything out of Petronas until 23 or 24, any kind of announcements, and they're a joint venture with Exxon. So if you just look at this graph, it's almost, look, I've shown this graph to industry experts, and their jaws dropped. They had no idea. And I'll give you an example. There's a guy named Kevin, who's the former Trinidad oil and gas minister for Trinidad. And I met with him last week, Wednesday night, and I dropped this chart on him. And he had no idea. He'd not seen something like this before. And he's providing consultation to the ministries both in Guyana and in Suriname. And it's a bit mind-boggling. What you're going to have, if you just took a straight line and you looked at 2026 or 2027, you could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You could have 8 projects up to 9 projects going at the same time. That's unbelievable. It's unheard of in any other deep water basin right now. These are 9 multi-billion-dollar projects going at the same time. So this is what's coming your way. I think you guys need to start preparing. And I'm going to get to some numbers and move it, talk a little bit more about it. So here's the field. What they call this Starbuck, they call it the Golden Lane, where Exxon has found all those fields within the Starbuck. So let me just tell you a little bit about Guyana and Suriname versus Gulf of Mexico. So deep water started in Gulf of Mexico. Gulf of Mexico was responsible for the technology, first of all, for any offshore technology started in the Gulf of Mexico, 100 years ago. And it's evolved over the last, really accelerated over the last 70 years. And fortunately, we found offshore fields and deep water fields in other parts of the world, and that technology has been transferred to other parts of the world. And then some of the other parts of the world have actually evolved some of that technology into new technology. So we don't have very many FPSOs. We have 0 FPSOs in the Gulf of Mexico because of hurricanes. We have different kinds of platforms that can be unhooked from the field below, and it's not that easy to do that with an FPSO. So the FPSO technology really evolved outside of Gulf of Mexico, but all of the deep water, which is the most sophisticated stuff, is the wells and the deep water technology evolved in the Gulf of Mexico. But Starbuck got 6 million acres and is the equivalent of 1,100 Gulf of Mexico blocks. And that's incredible. It's huge. It's just beyond imagination for Gulf of Mexico folks when they come to Starbuck and see just how big it is. Exxon is only exploring in the bottom third of Starbuck today. So when I do my forecast, I'm not even including the other 2/3 of Starbuck. We don't know what's there. And I don't know when it's going to get explored, but it doesn't really need to be explored. We got more than enough between Canje, Starbuck, the quarantine. And then you see down here Repsol, and Repsol's got a drilling rig coming in next year, and they plan to go back in and drill again as well. And so they're an outlier. If they find oil or gas, and they decide to develop it, then that just adds to this forecast that I don't even have them in the forecast right now. So that Golden Lane, you can see it extends into Block 58, which is in my graph, it shows on the left side, it shows Total and Apache. On the right side, it just shows Apache. And then it goes to Block 52, which is the Petronas ExxonMobil. On the Apache block, Apache had several discoveries and realized that they had major oil and gas, but they didn't have the financial capability to go after this. So Subsea 7, the company I work for, we did a development plan for Apache. They used that development plan to negotiate with several major oil companies, and they decided to go with Total. And Total farmed into the Apache Block 58. When they farm in, they buy in, basically. So Apache was paid billions of dollars upfront by Total to take a 50% interest in the block. Then they were given billions of dollars worth of credit against the future development of that field. So basically, Apache spent, I don't know, $300–400 million exploring, found a major discovery, and turned that into a multi-billion dollar advance payment and credit, and then they will share 50% in the production of that. So that's there's companies like Cosmos, Apache, Tullow, other companies like that those guys don't have the capability to actually get the oil to production in these large fields like that because of the capital expenses and the complexity of these kinds of projects. So they're out looking for it, and then they turn it into profits for themselves by farming it out to the ExxonMobils, the Totals, the Shells, the Chevrons of the world. The other thing real quick about this is the lowest cost frontier deepwater production. It's less than $35 a barrel. One of the ExxonMobil fields was less than $30 a barrel. That's unheard of. You're looking at 40 plus in the Gulf of Mexico. You're looking at 40 plus in Brazil, 35 to 40 to 50 in Brazil. So being less than 35 makes this the cheapest deepwater oil in the world right now. And then the ability to get from discovery to first oil in less than 10 years makes it even more desirable. So that's why we're seeing a lot of capital move into this basin right now. So let's go down to the next one. So this is just a quick chart to let you know where you're going to be. Right now, Norway produces about 360,000 barrels a day. Angola produces 1.1 million barrels a day. The entire Gulf of Mexico produces roughly about between 1.7 and 1.9 million barrels a day. And Brazil is the largest deepwater producer. This is just deepwater now, is the largest deepwater producer, closing in on 2 million barrels. There's a lot of activity in Brazil. I fully expect Brazil to move up from 2 million barrels. I really don't have a good forecast for it. What I can see is it could come in around 2.2 million barrels and then just basically replace existing production as it goes down. Gulf of Mexico, the predictions are for it to stay flat. So just in a few short years, in about 5-6 years, Guyana and Suriname will be the third largest deepwater producer in the world. And by 2030, it's going to be a tie between Brazil and Guyana, Suriname. So you can see that's just incredible. Nobody saw this coming. And when I show these charts to people, they're just blown away. They don't realize that it's just now starting to come to grips on how big this market is and what's actually coming. So I describe it as a tsunami. You guys, you look out at the ocean and you see what looks like a wave. You go, oh, it looks kind of big. You don't realize how big it is until it hits your beach and covers up everything and just blows you away. We've got a tsunami coming. And it's going to be, in a few short years, you're going to be in the top 2 deepwater basins in the world. And you're doing that with a very small population. So we all pray that the sovereign wealth funds are properly put together and properly funded, so your children and grandchildren can benefit from this. So this chart right here is just from the Investor Day from ExxonMobil earlier this year. This is outdated. This is taken directly out of the Investor Day, and it shows you ExxonMobil's take about on where we are about 6-8 months ago. That was 9 billion barrels. They are now admitting to 10 billion barrels. Their success rate back then was 18 discoveries. We're now at 22 discoveries. So it's changed just in the last 6-8 months. That chart alone has changed. And so this is just ExxonMobil's predictions, and just in 1 year, this is outdated. In less than 1 year, in 9 months, this chart is outdated, but it gives you an idea, and it tells you, what Exxon is saying publicly. So let's talk about other things. So I just threw in something to look at: rig count. Right now, there are 9 rigs currently working between Guyana and Suriname. 6 of them were with ExxonMobil, 1 of them's with CGX, and 2 of them were with Total. Each rig has 220 people on it. Each rig does a shift change every 4 to 6 weeks, depending on COVID and what's going on being able to get in and out. So, so each rig requires 440 people, because you have some people at home and some people working, and you have to change them out and on their shifts. So you have to have 440 people available to work offshore. Each one of those positions requires multiple certifications, sometimes licenses, sometimes permits, to be able to work offshore in those positions. And so the kinds of training that's required is through the roof to work on a deep water rig. Right now, we're seeing about 10% of the rigs with local hires on it. The goal is going to be somewhere around 25 to 35% of people from the local communities working offshore on those rigs. If you look at my chart here, this is just a conservative view of how many rigs are going to be needed just to meet the production requirements of the current FPSOs and tiebacks that are being planned. And right now we got 9. My prediction is we're going to be above 18. So it's about double that, 15 to 18 rigs. So if you take a conservative view of 15 rigs, there's 6,600 people that will be transiting offshore through the airports, through your logistics systems and your meet and greet services. Every 60 days, you're going to have just for oil rigs, you're going to have over 6,600 people. So that kind of gives you an idea of a way to think about, how do I build the capacity to meet these requirements? Now, step back. Right now in Guyana alone, there are 34 PSVs working. If we double the rig count, we're going to need somewhere close to 70 rigs between Guyana and Suriname, a little over 70 PSVs working. We currently don't have enough space in our ports to manage 70 PSVs. Right now, it's very crowded with the 34. We don't have enough port capability. So that port capability is going to have to be built in over the next 5 years to even keep up with what we got. And then you've got another 1,600 people that are transiting offshore for just PSVs. And they generally have 12 to 15 people on it. So you have 25 to 30 that as part of your rotation times however number of PSVs. So I just picked this thing out just to get your head around what's going on there. This doesn't even include the installation vessels. And I'll go to my next slide and talk about that real quick here. So I've got a couple of pictures here. I hope you can see them all right. The top one is a PSV. They're usually about 100 meters long, and they have 12 to 15 POB on it. And what the PSVs do is they're platform supply vessels. They come into port, they load up on fluids, on the cementing requirements for the drill ships, on food, everything that's drill pipe, everything that's needed offshore, and they take it out to the drill ship or the FPSO or the work barges and support the offshore campaigns. And those things, they make runs. So every day they're either going out or they're unloading or they're coming back in and getting loaded out. And that's all they do. That's how we get everything offshore and how we maintain the operations offshore. The next one down is a PLSV. That's a pipeline installation vessel. Those typically have, and that happens to be a Subsea 7. I think that one is the 7 Pacific, has 120 people on board, and they do flex line installations and equipment installations. And those are about 120 meters long, and they require a 8.5 meter draft. The next one down from that is the 7 Vega. It's a pipeline installation vessel. It's a relay installation vessel. That one happens to be the largest in the world. It's the newest also. It came out in December 2020. It's already laid a 3,000 meter pipeline in the Gulf of Mexico. And it's the highest tech pipeline installation vessel in the world. We're hoping that that's something that we'll be able to find a way to use in this market, because the next one down below that is a J-lay vessel, and that happens to be the 7 Borealis, which is also a subsea 7. The current one out there working right now is FDS-2, which is Saipem's vessel. So the difference between those two is a J-lay vessel can lay 1.5 kilometers a day of pipe. A relay vessel can lay 25 kilometers a day of pipe. So there's a bit of a difference there. And so a relay vessel has about 120 people on board, and a typical J-lay vessel has about 350 folks on board. So you can do your math. There's not as many of those. It's not like drill ships. There's only 1 or 2 of those out there at any one time. But if we've got 6 or 7 projects going on at the same time, we could have a half dozen of those out there at the same time. So you can see where the numbers are going. You can see what's coming your way. Number of people transiting through the airport, needing hotel accommodations, needing rides, needing to get trained, all of those things. That's what's coming our way. I'm going to go back up here to the very beginning of this slide. And that's it, guys. That's just kind of my industry update and my forecast, just to kind of start getting your heads around where you need to be over the next 2 to 5 years to be able to take advantage of this tsunami that's coming your way. And it's very exciting, honestly. It's crazy exciting. It's a never before seen type of adventure. The Gulf of Mexico, like I said, took 100 years to develop. Brazil is a 40-year in development process. Guyana Suriname is a 5-year in development process. This is crazy. Nobody's ever gotten to these numbers in such a short period of time, even close to it. I mean, it's been 30, 40 years that Brazil's been getting to that number, and 100 years for the Gulf of Mexico. So, all right, well, that's it. I'm open to questions, and I'll